Alright, today's lecture is on immigration. Some famous immigrants, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Wayne Gretzky, Arnold, Wayne, Levi Strauss, the guy who made Levi's jeans, Albert Einstein's actually an immigrant, Santana, famous guitarist, as well as Sammy Sosa, baseball player. And these might all be somewhat old examples to what you guys might be familiar with. Alright, between 1865 and 1920, 30 million people enter the country. Okay, they enter the United States. And for comparison, for how many people that actually is, well, in 1860, the U.S. population was 31.5 million. So during this 1865 to 1920, that amount of people entering the country almost equaled the population, the entire U.S. population in 1860. Some push factors of the immigration to the United States, okay, things that push immigrants out of their home country, okay, and negative factors that are in their homeland. Crop failures, things like the failed potato crop in Ireland results in famine. Okay, shortages of jobs, high taxes, famine, political and religious persecution, such as the Jews in Russia. Is one example of religious and political persecution. Pull factors, okay, things that are incentives to come over to the United States. This idea that you can get rich, all right, you can get rich in the United States. Land, there was kind of a land crunch over in Europe, which was resulting in those high taxes. Well, in the United States, there's tons of land. They can take advantage of the Homestead Act, and they can just continue moving west. Personal freedoms, freedom of speech, religion, all these numerous personal freedoms that you could have in the United States that you could not necessarily have over in Europe. This idea of democracy and the idea of a free public education, all were incentives to take the journey over to the United States. Alright, the trip over. Most of the time it lasted 1 to 2 weeks. Most immigrants are going to travel in the steerage, or the large open area beneath the ship deck. The more wealthy immigrants, they would travel in cabins above the deck, but the majority of immigrants coming over to the United States during this time period are fairly poor. There are limited toilets, no privacy, and very poor food. Again, really these shipping companies aren't going to make this a very luxurious trip. They just want to transport these people. So, where do the immigrants come from? The majority of immigrants are going to come from Europe during this time period. And there were two specific waves. From 1865 to 1890, most of the immigrants were from northwestern and central Europe. Okay, on the diagram here in the blue circles. A lot of immigrants from Great Britain, Ireland, Germany, the Scandinavian countries, Norway, Finland, Denmark, Sweden. So all of those northwestern and central European countries. In 1880, this pattern shifts to the countries in red. In 1880, yes, they do overlap a little bit, so in 1880 there are still immigrants coming from northwestern and central Europe. However, the majority of immigrants from 1880 to 1890, okay, this 10-year span, they are coming from Central and Southern and Eastern Europe. So this is where you're going to get your Italians, your Greeks, your Slavs, your Ukrainians, your Western Russian. So this is a huge shift in the immigration from northwestern and central to southern and more eastern. Northwestern and central, these are going to be a little wealthier immigrants, and the southern and eastern are going to be your much poorer immigrants that are coming into the United States.